Today, I'm reviewing the Acoustica Audio Celestial. It looks like this. Now, this is obviously a rip-off of the SSL Fusion. I reviewed the Fusion on my channel, there's a link there. Now, I really liked the Fusion, it was good, it was fun, it was more for mixing I thought than for mastering, but I wanted to listen to this and see if it was the same. So let's get stuck in, let's go on my screen and I'll run through it. I've not actually used this until I've made this video, so it's gonna be a real run through from me, straight in, running a track through and seeing how it sounds, and then we can make that judgment together. So let's dive in. So here we are inside of Pro Tools with a track from my assistant Matt Jones. A little plug there for you, Matt. And what we're going to do, we're going to get the Celestial going up. So all I'm doing is I'm going out of here on a bus to my outputs, and I've banged a little meter on here so that we can see exactly what's going on. So when I'm using plugins, I use them in the same way as I would hardware. So I kind of have that mindset of it's hardware, it's not software. So I don't want to bring loads of stuff in that I don't know exactly what's going on and whether it's lined up. So the best thing to do, first of all, before we start this, is just use Matt's track and let's just get a level to make sure that it's flat in and out. So in and out, we're yeah, it's flat in and out. Okay, so let's get these down to 0. So if we're to put the drive on, okay, so are we flat with the drive on? Yeah. Sometimes when you have a drive feature like this, you can sometimes get a little bit of push on it straight away. So it's just good to check that first of all. So let's get Matt's track back and let's have a quick run through the setup here. So we have on the first bit, there's harmonics, and so we've got harmonics and texture. So this is like a kind of tapey kind of thing, I would say, where it's adding a little bit of flavor to proceedings, and you can then drive how much you want of that texture. So they've called that drive. We then go across to an EQ, which is very basic, low frequency and high frequency. The frequencies are 20, 40, 60, 80, which this is going to give you a kind of smiley face EQ. So it's a very general EQ. And I would say, yeah, these are quite good settings for around here. I don't know, they're both shelves, so I don't know where the shelves starting when I've got it at 80. I would guess around 200 or something, but we would have to get a scope on that to see exactly what's happening there. And we don't want to do that here because that's just getting far too technical. We've already done a 1K test tone, which is pushing the boundaries for me. So then we've got high frequencies. So we've got 18, 16, 10 and 6. They're pretty cool. 6 quite useful for bringing, doing quite a very broad shelf. So that'll bring the whole of the top end up, starting at, I would say, around 2K, I would guess. So this is just for your smiley face action, bit of up, bit of down. And really this mix box is a kind of prepper, I would say. So this would be at the front of my chain before anything else. So it's okay, let's get some stuff out the way before we get into some more detail of mastering or finishing off your mix. So the next stage is just some filters. So we've got a high pass, which is 20, 30 and 40. You don't really want to be going much higher than 40 because obviously that's where it starts, but it will be filtering off from, say, 60 up to 80. So by having a 40K filter on, 40 Hertz filter on there, it's going to be cutting a lot off. So they're good frequencies. I tend to cut around 20. You start losing kick drum at 30 Hertz and above. When you were cutting vinyl, most vinyl cutters would cut at 40, which is why a lot of vinyl doesn't have super lows on it, because vinyl doesn't like a lot of low end. So that was a kind of standard. But I think these days, the standard should be 30 or 20, if that. A lot of times mixes have been high pass, so they don't actually need that. But going on to the low pass, so you've got 22K, 5K. I mean, these are quite drastic. but from a mastering point of view, 400 hertz low pass is quite hectic. 22 I might use just to kind of smooth the top end off, because again, that's probably starting at about 15. So if you've got anything that's the hi-hats and things that are too tizzy, that go mental, then 22's good. 5, it's, you know, that's not for mastering, but it might be for mixing or for other instruments that you're using this on. This could be quite handy. So dynamics we've got here. So good to see that there's a sidechain filter. So what this is meaning is that anything below these frequencies that you pick, which are in hertz, so 50, 100, 150, 200 and 250, they would, anything under that isn't getting affected by the dynamics. Now, the reason why that's so important and why I'm happy to see that is because when you're pushing through a mix, through this with the dynamics, it will be nice to really glue the kind of top end together and glue the mids and stuff. And what's going to happen is you're going to have the low end, because that's got more energy in it, that's going to drive the compressor dynamics. So by cutting that off and letting the top just do its thing, you won't get a sucking movement. Now, sometimes that sucking movement's good. If you can get the timing right on it with this here, then you can get that kind of in and out effect. So if that's what you're looking for, this could work quite well. We'll see it. We'll do it on Matt's track and see what happens. So there's just a threshold, a time here, fast or slow. There's no attack or release. This is kind of general, so I guess they're kind of making that up. I'd keep it in fast most of the time. Unless I was doing classical stuff, I might pull it out a bit slow. But I'm talking as a general kind of mix thing, because this is a mix processor. And then makeup is whatever you're losing. Now, I noticed on the input on the left-hand side, this is where the gain reduction is. So you can watch the gain reduction here and then make that up with the, because obviously with a compressor, you're pulling it down. So you need to make up that level here. So that goes in sections of 2, which is for mastering quite a lot. But, you know, this is for your mix bus, but I'd like to have seen that in smaller increments, but beggars can't be choosers. And then we go on to this stereo action here. So if your mix is a bit heavy on the left or right, you can do a kind of general pan. So again, that would be nice if it was a little bit tighter, but I haven't done any numbers on this yet, so I don't know how much this gets pushed as it goes. In fact, why don't we do that? So we can see on the meters that if I'm going up, it's kind of gone up 2 dB to there. So yeah, these are 2 dB increments again. So yeah, if you wanted to do anything that was subtle, then that's going to make that a little bit more complex. But going on to the spread. Now, stereo spread, what's this doing is giving you a little bit more kind of stereo width. It's playing with the phase of the track. So what it's doing is grabbing everything in the stereo and then making that louder, and making everything in the mono will go quieter. That's the basics of that. Now let's run through this and have a listen to see what it's doing. And inputs and outputs kind of are obviously do what they say on the tin. So if you're going into this a little bit hot on your meters, then you can pull that down, and then you can, you know, throw some stuff at it and then come back at the same level, or, you know, just so that you know, okay, what I'm doing is I'm not just, you know, adding a ton of level, which, as we all know, makes your brain think everything's better, because hence the loudness wars. But that's not necessarily the case. So what you want to try and do is keep your levels in and out pretty similar once you've got all this malarkey ongoing. So let's get Matt's track going, and let's have a play with some of these settings just to see what's happening. So first of all, let's give it some drive. So let's hear that without anything on. So look, we know that's flat because we tested that level previously before we went in and out. So I think that's already got a nice little vibe to it, even without anything on, just going through it. So let's add a little bit of harmonics on there, see what happens. Obviously we'll go a bit dramatic so that we can actually hear exactly what's going on. don't actually like what that's doing to the piano and stuff, but it's kind of muddying it a bit, but let's add a little bit of texture. So now we're adding, obviously we're adding a ton of level now. So let's just bring the output level down a bit. We can test this again so that we can know what's happening. Oh. So we know what's happening with the level. Let's see. So as we've got that on. Okay, so my slapdash approach actually did make it fairly similar. There you go, there's a bit of experience for you. So yeah, so my little nudge down here was kind of round about 3, so yeah, half and 3 there. So we can hear exactly what difference it's making. We know that it's flat, which is important. Kind of exciting it a bit, isn't it, really? It's quite nice. It's lifting the high mids, making it a little bit more exciting in the high mids. So let's okay, let's turn that off. Let's go to the EQ. Let's see what this has got for us. Start these at 0. So let's go, we'll have to go quite radical, which let's add 4 dB. So this is in the top end. So let's do it at 10 because that was kind of midway. Let's put that level back up to 0. That's quite smooth. Not too tizzy and thin, is it? Till we get to there. It's the 18K line, let's see. It's alright, it's not too dramatic, which is quite nice. They haven't gone too crazy on the top end, which, you know, sometimes things can sound a little bit too thin, but this sounds quite nice. It's not too bad. Opens up a bit, hats getting a bit crazy, but I have got like 4 dB of gain on, so I would never do 4 dB of gain, really. Always much more subtle. Okay, let's get some bass going at the same time. So let's get the 60 Hertz going. I like that. And then you give it some at 40, which means that it will give it some foundations. Let's give it some. Obviously that's starting to bring up the low end of that piano quite nicely. So it's telling me that the curve's quite high. So there's our smiley face. Are we feeling happier because of the smiley face? So I'll drive back in, see where we're going, just try that level again. And how are we sounding with the both in? Okay. Let's drop the bass a bit. So now that's those two done. Let's have a listen to these filters. Let's turn that on. Okay, now. Turn that down on. So you can hear that smoothing the top out nicely. If you listen to those hats, just keep focused on the hats. I mean, there's no problem with the hats, so I wouldn't do it, but going to focus that a bit more. As I said earlier, I wouldn't be getting into this kind of territory because it's, unless I was DJing and then wanted to bring it up. But let's listen to the low end. So I'd be listening for the kick here. Okay, let's listen to the kick. So if you listen, as I put that in, it does focus up the mids a little bit more because it's taken some power away from the low end. So that's kind of, you feel that focusing in a bit. Sorry, let's just go back, need a longer section. If you listen to the bass, the lower part of the key, lower part of the piano, you can suddenly hear it come into focus as I put it on. So when you're using low cut, high pass filters like this, as I've just shown you there, it can change the focus a little bit because it's taking a little bit away from the bass. It allows the low end of the piano to come in a little bit more. So yeah, cutting at that 30 hertz, it does just bring that focus into play, but watch out you're not snipping too much away from the low end, but it's a good way of getting a track focused. So let's move on to the dynamics because we'll be here all day otherwise. And let's see what these are doing. So remember, we've got the gain reduction here. So as we pull this, keep that on fast, make up down. Sidechain filter, I would put that on. Now there was a standard for sidechain filtering for about 150 hertz. This goes back again to vinyl cutting. So the 150 is a good place to start with a sidechain filter because it's just going to make sure that the subs and the kick aren't deciding what's happening with the compressor. So keep those out of the picture for the moment. I'll show you what it's like when we let it back in. So I'm looking at the gain reduction on the left here. I want to bring that up so that I'm tickling it, especially for mastering. You don't want to be doing too much. So if I was mastering it, I'd probably be tickling it like that just to get some flavor. But for this demo purposes, let's give it a little bit more. So now we're taking 1 dB off. So these are in 2 dB increments again. So as I said, it's going about there, I think. Let's go to the end. Yeah, it's gluing it nicely. So 1 dB is quite a lot for me to compress, like 1.5. This is more than I would normally do. Usually I'm using compressors just for the feel and just get a bit of glue, but because it will change the mix quite a lot. You can hear how dramatically it's bringing that keyboard into the center. So So I wouldn't want to do that much really. So normally I would bring that down just so it's tickling it. So we're getting that glue, but we're not getting like, we're not being overtaken by anything. So that's giving it a little bit more style. So now let me just show you the difference if you haven't got that side chain in. Let's take that back up to there so that we're, there you go. So there's side chain out, which does give you that effect, as I said earlier, where you can have the track really sort of moving. And what you can do with this, which is a nice trick, is to have this in parallel with another track so that you can then have the track bouncing, but that's a whole different production skill that's out of my realm for this video. So you can feel that. So the low end is making that work, but obviously for this, I'm not producing it, I'm just mastering it, so I don't want the bass to be moving that at all. So yeah, compressor's quite nice, I think. I mean, I've got that really fast. As I said, I'd only go slow on slower tracks, really. So I always try and keep things nice and quick. I just want to be in and out. I just want the flavour of it. I think it's quite nice. It sounds really sort of gluey. It sounds really good. I was going a little bit more extreme than I would have done there, but it kind of just shows us off the flavour. So that's quite interesting. So let's move on to the stereo, which is obviously mono and stereo spread and the left and right pan, as I said earlier on. So let's listen to the effect that the mono and stereo have. Obviously that takes away the sides and puts it in mono, and then pull the other side, takes away a lot of the mid information and bangs it in the stereo. So this is a problem when you get excited with putting stuff in stereo. So as you start spreading stuff, and this is why I'm not a massive fan of these kind of buttons, I prefer to do this with MSEQ, mainly because when you start spreading the signal, you start losing bass response. And so as you can hear, if I go extreme, it takes all the low end out. And you actually get Actually, I prefer the sound when it's there because it's giving me a little bit more like kick. But like I said, I still want a bit of stereo, so I'd rather do that in other tools. For me, spreading this here, it's just taking away from low end if I'm on a master bus, so not something I'd want to do. So yeah, that's it really. I like it. It's pretty cool. It's got some little gadgets. Just go easy with it. If you haven't got filters, and this is kind of nice as to get things happening, get some harmonics going. I'm sure if you play with this more, you use the pre-T and the drive features, just using those in combination. If you didn't want to use any of these filters or dynamics, then they would be pretty handy just to run through. Go easy on the stereo spread, as I said. Left and right pans, handy if the mix, you're not going back to the mix, but you just need to sort out the panning a little bit. So the main thing for me would be, using the drive and the pre-T, the harmonics, the textures. I like this. I wasn't massively overexcited about the EQ. I've got loads of that going on already. I've got loads of this going on. Although that 30 hertz high pass did make a nice sound, didn't it? So that might be something that stays in my brain when I'm searching around for a high pass. These dynamics, they're pretty nice. I thought they were pretty good. They was pretty gluey, so could be worth looking at. Sound wise, okay, yeah, all right. I think it was really good, yeah, nice for just gluing something together. But yeah, for me it would be the texture, harmonics and the pre-T, and then using them just to get a little bit more tone and flavour into things. So yeah, that's it. That's the Celestial. And don't forget, it's free at the moment, so grab it while you can for the next few days. I think at the end of February it's goes to being a paid plugin. So at the moment it's a freebie, so grab it while you can. So that's the Celestial from Acoustica Audio. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want me to review anything else, then please let me know in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video, obviously, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.